Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this virtual edition of CoDE 2020. We hope to be able to try and replicate the success we had with CoDE 2019, but conditions being as they are now, we've had to reduce the coverage of what we can offer online. And so today we're very excited after listening to Director General Daniel Ma and with his opening address, to now have Encik Rafiz from Merchant Trade Asia, Chief Strategy Officer from Merchant Trade Asia, to talk us through this fantastic Malaysian success story, which is Merchant Trade. I mean, Merchant Trade's got 84 branches, 400 agents, and is known domestically and now more and more regionally as the leading remittance provider. So Rafiz, thank you so much for joining us today. Really tell us, what does Merchant Trade do?
Hi Farah, good afternoon everybody. Thanks for having me here. It's such a privilege to be here. I'll be glad to just share with you our story. But I think before I just proceed, maybe I just want to correct you a little bit. We've got about 101 branches now, actually.
Sorry, excuse me.
Not a problem. Just update you. We've got about 101 branches now, and we've got about 470 agent locations. And on top of that, we've got about 700 merchants as our network. So all in all, we've got about, I would say about 1,000, what is that? That's got to be about 1,002 touch points nationwide. And of course, we're growing that network, that footprint, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's, it's been a very interesting and very tough year, as I think everybody can imagine. I think everybody has their own stories individually and as companies, with the COVID started in Malaysia anyway, in terms of the restriction in movements back in March, yeah. So it's been a good 7 to 8 months now here. Yeah? So it's for us obviously. One we just couldn't imagine. We obviously, when we all do our risk exercises, our risk mitigation, our regular meetings with our risk management committee and all that, and along comes COVID, and honestly, it's not a simulation that you run on a regular basis. But we all had to adapt very quickly. I think the business really had to adapt very quickly. I think the initial period was a lot of confusion and a lot of uncertainty, right? A lot of foreboding, quite honestly, right? And I think once things have settled down, within the first couple of weeks, 3 weeks, then we really got into the groove and got things going in terms of actually running, so to speak, in this new normal.
Your client demographic is generally less digital savvy,
yes,
than the normal, maybe urban worker, I should say. How has COVID changed their behavior? And how have you used digital solutions to try and bridge that divide, as it were?
Yeah, when the COVID set in, obviously, all our branch network and agent network had to be temporarily shut. You may be aware that back in 2011, we've already started digitalizing our business. When we went to remittance back in 2006, 2007, and we started digitalizing the business around 2011. That's when we started having our e-remit online. Yeah. The digital channel just took off. To answer your question directly, it just took off very rapidly. We've been doing, say for example, in terms of digital channel market share for us anyway. We were doing about 15-20% digital in terms of our mix of between the traditional and the digital. April was 90%, right? It just shot up, right? And even now today, when things have more or less kind of settled down a bit, a lot less stringent than what it was before in terms of the lockdown regime.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's for us, it's not even close to what it was pre-COVID, right? It's still elevated. The digital channels are still very elevated and growing. So the adoption has been rather quick. I think everybody, our customer base, as you mentioned, which are basically the migrant workers, the foreign workers, they just had to really adapt, just like everyone else, to actually go online, go digital.
And I'm sure you've got plans as Chief Strategy Officer. I'm sure you've got plans to try and facilitate this even further. Do you want to share some of these plans with us? I mean, obviously, a lot of people initially were very skeptical about online payments and remittances, but then, needs must. And because of COVID, they've moved and they've adopted it. And now they're here to stay, presumably. So what are your plans to further cultivate this adoption?
For us, I think the challenge when we're dealing with the target segment is manifold, as you can imagine, Farah, because we're dealing with many nationalities. Yeah, it's just many composition of nationalities. You have Indian nationals, Pakistanis, you have Bangladeshis, and with that comes different cultures, different expectation, different communication approaches, but it all boils down to trust. Yeah? So especially when it comes to dealing with their money, because it's hard-earned money, right? And they're so used to, I think, when you to a large degree previously, a lot of them were being paid in cash, and they would come on a weekend over to our branches and then remittance back home. So now it's a question of a lot of hand-holding, a lot of financial education, if you want to use that term, to say, look, there's another way to do this, which is on our app, on our merchant trade money app, where you can actually remit back to your loved ones without having to leave your factory site, your plantation site. Yeah. So there's a lot of hand-holding on our side. There's a lot of communication in their language, because we have in our communication department, our marketing department, and our client-facing department, we obviously have people who actually speak the language. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
We release videos on YouTube and social media in their respective languages.
So just walk me through this. I mean, historically, they would have been given cash.
Yeah.
Now their salaries are banked into a merchant trade account, which then gets transferred to your partners in whichever country the remittance is targeted at. Is that how it works now?
Yeah. So what we're doing now is that, as you can imagine, Farah, there's a lot of companies out there, obviously many foreign workers, who are asking for the service of actually helping the workers remit money back home. Because, if you're a factory owner, and you employ 100 workers and all that, one of the things that you want to do is obviously safeguard your workers. And, you want to discourage them from going out, and mixing and, catching the pandemic. So what we're doing with many of these companies, and we're working with partners, and many of these partners are banks. As you can imagine, a lot of these banks have a lot of SME clients. And, these SME clients, they employ 20, 30 foreign workers, 100 foreign workers. So they get in touch with our partner bank and say, hey, can you offer these services to our foreign workers? So what we do is we sign up a lot of these foreign workers onto our merchant trade money app. And previously, many of them were actually paid in cash, are now actually getting their money onto the merchant trade app. And then, and in the app itself is the ability to actually remit money back to your home country. So that's what we're doing now. Even as we speak, we're actually onboarding companies, foreign workers who are working in these companies. And it's still ongoing. And, As you can imagine, it's actually quite people intensive in the sense that we got to go there. We got to actually,
on board, physical
we have to
onboarding.
actually onboard it, because we the staff of the company can't onboard. We have to do it. So we go through that motion of sitting down with the company and onboard the staff.
So that's actually, to me, quite interesting, because what you have here is a partnership with a legacy bank, but you are a digital provider, right? Yes. So it goes back, it kind of goes back to that argument about whether legacy will take over from digital or vice versa. And really, at the end of the day, it's the partnership that counts. To get the banks onboarded, to ensure that their SME clients will then bank into their merchant trade accounts for their employees. How do you think, in that space of financial inclusion, right? So, when we talk about the unbanked, right? I recently watched a video from the vice president of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation saying that there are 1.7 billion people globally that are unbanked. When you start looking at the people who are unbanked or underserved, right? Because a lot of them are not necessarily unbanked in their home countries, but they're clearly underserved in their new homes, I know that for a fact, Merchant Trade has been doing some work recently with the construction labor exchange. And that is something that's very interesting to me, because it kind of allows for a holistic adoption and a centralized point of influence or aggregation, as it were, for financial inclusion, towards financial inclusion, specifically for the migrant workers. Can you talk us through this partnership with the Construction Labor Exchange, and what does Merchant Trade hope to achieve from it?
This partnership with CLAB is very interesting. And as you know, they provide labor. They not necessarily just foreign labor, but Malaysian labor to the construction industry in Malaysia. So what we have with them is that we work with CLAB to actually onboard all the workers that arrive to Malaysia. There is a central location in Sungai Buloh where we station ourselves there. And when these foreign workers actually go there for, I guess, an assimilation, for lack of a better word, I think they're there for about 2 or 3 days before then dispersed to the various companies who actually need these foreign workers. So that's the time when we onboard them, and we teach them how to use the app. We teach, you may also know that we also have an MVNO license. So actually, we give them a prepaid card as well. So that immediately that they're ready to go. So immediately they know how to use the app. The moment their employers pay them, it goes directly to their wallet, and they can immediately start remitting to their loved ones. So that's really an example that we want to replicate more and more. CLAB is fantastic because it's actually a central body where a lot of these foreign workers arrive. So actually we can get them early, and then before they go off and work with the employers.
Can I just ask, and I'm very curious about this, how much cheaper does a digital remittance provider, can you serve your clients compared to a box standard legacy banking remittance service?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we obviously, as we increase technology in this business, in any business, obviously, the hope is actually to bring the price down for the user.
Yes.
Generally now it's the cost is about 2% of the transaction, and maybe about a year ago it's probably about about close to 4%. So it's been coming down. So I think technology is a great leveler in that sense, and it is coming down. So that's a good thing for our users and our people who are remitting.
And I've got a further question that's not on our agreed list of questions, but I'm a bit like that. Remittance is fine. Money broking, your licenses with Negara and Bank Negara Malaysia, Central Bank of Malaysia. Does merchant trade ever, as chief strategy officer, do you ever consider that maybe, you have a very, very strong client base that will need insurance or some kind of micro insurance offering? Is there something that you're looking at? Because at the end of the day, it's about that base that you have, your clientele base, and meeting their needs. Because my layman way of looking at it is that remittance is just maybe one small vertical of what they're after.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, Farah, because at the end of the day, our business is a very customer-centric business. I think you need to actually build the business around your customer base, and that's what we try and do. And we fully realize it's just that, doing just a remittance product is just tip of the iceberg in terms of what our target segment requires. So, our partners are AXA, so we've actually launched a micro insurance with them. And as a foreign worker, they onboard into our merchant trade app. They can actually buy the personal accident micro insurance for 5 ringgit a month.
Okay.
The other thing that we are looking towards launching onto the app, but they can already get it at the branches already, is actually a small bites of life insurance, and we're working with MCIS on that. So you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, the goal is to ensure that on that app that we have, Merchant Trade Money, is that we try and provide as many relevant functional financial products and services that we can, that our migrant worker user would like to have. So definitely, yeah, it's a platform. As we go forward, the desire is to ensure that that the foreign worker, the migrant worker, uses the apps for not just remittance, but some sort of a alternative bank, so to speak. And some of them obviously can't get a bank account. So it's like a store of money. It's a place to remit. It's a place to buy some small affordable insurance. And going forward, it's a place for them to look at as a, for lack of a better word, as a mecca for anything financial. Financial education, to get themselves educated about choices. At the end of the day, I think they need choices, just like every one of us needs choices.
Yes.
And it's also about, while they're here making money in their host country in Malaysia, it's all about creating wealth before they go back home. I think there's very, very little opportunity for them to create wealth at the moment. And I think the opportunity for us, and again, focusing on what their needs are, is to help them educate themselves financially as to what their options are, and then give them options in terms of what can you do while you're here in Malaysia, 2 to 3 years, 4 years, whatever, to build wealth before you go back home.
That's fantastic, because, it's about education, it's about information and access to information, and if they leave Malaysia after making a certain amount of money to go home, it's important that they also benefit on a more tangible level, right? And a more real level, so they go away with more information. I wanted to ask you another question, actually, regarding client onboarding and how that works for merchant trade. And your limits. So there are obviously transactional limits that apply to all the accounts, and the kind of, do you do eKYC or digital client onboarding, or how does that all work in this micro space, as it were?
So increasingly we are digitally onboarding our customers. So on our app now, you can actually do eKYC. We're one of the first few that can do digital onboarding through eKYC. So yeah, so and one of the things also we are actually rolling out as we speak. We should be anytime soon in our network of merchants. And as I mentioned just now, we've got 700 and it's growing. We will be putting how should I say? It's like a mini kiosk where there is self onboarding, yeah, for these foreign workers. And so we'll be rolling that out definitely in 2021, where a lot of these foreign workers can actually visit these merchants and self onboard at the merchants. Or of course, on the app on the phone itself, there's eKYC. So we actually try and make it as easy as possible and as accessible as possible for a lot of these foreign workers to digitally onboard themselves.
And this is limited to, and the size, the size of the wallet, as it were, is 20,000 ringgits.
We just launched the 20,000 ringgit, Farah. Not too long ago, about a month ago, we just got approval from Bank Negara earlier in the year, and we just launched the 20,000 wallet. So the wallet size is 3,000, 10,000, and 20,000.
Okay.
So so obviously for the foreign worker, the relevant sizes at the moment are about 3,000 and 10,000, depending on the kind of paperwork that they have.
Okay. And what about merchant trade corporate? So you've been talking a lot about your services, your push. Clearly you started digital and you'll continue in this space, education, financial inclusion. But what about merchant trade Asia? From a corporate point of view, what are your plans in 2021 and beyond?
There's a lot to do still in Malaysia, in home here, as you can imagine. You have our operations done in Singapore. We have a 70% subsidiary done in Singapore that does full, no branch, fully digital remittance business. And we started that about 2 years ago. And the growth of that has been phenomenal, as you can imagine, especially now. You hear our neighbors down in Singapore, with a lot of us foreign workers who are stuck in the dormitories.
Yes.
So I think our digital remittance business there is really going very well. And as you can imagine, Singapore being Singapore, it's obviously a financial center. It's a potential platform for us going forwards onto other jurisdictions. But maybe if I can answer it this way, when we look at our customer base, we look at our core customer base being the foreign workers. They remit money everywhere, in all the regions, in all the countries, right? And so we offer obviously affect many in the region, Bangladesh, Nepal, Myanmar, Indonesia, you name it, Philippines, and all that. These are the top countries that a lot of our foreign workers are currently, residing in Malaysia and sending money to. I think for us, and we have built our own, international monetary transfer operator businesses. It's called an IMTO, where basically that platform allows us to actually send money overseas directly through our own platform. Obviously, we have partnerships with Western Union, but we ourselves, Merchant Trade, have actually built our own platforms. And as you can imagine, we have partners, bank partners in many of these countries. And we've had these partnerships with them for many years. They're familiar with us and we're familiar with them. I think the opportunity to work together and to create a digital ecosystem whereby as a foreign worker, I can connect you to your parents in Bangladesh, other ones in Indonesia. If you can imagine a digital ecosystem where everybody's connected, a community of migrant workers, not necessarily just in Malaysia. As you can imagine, the big payout countries in this region is us and Singapore. A lot of foreign workers in Singapore send money out. A lot of foreign workers in Malaysia send money out. The recipient countries are Philippines, Indonesia, Nepal, and all that. But if you can imagine a network, a digital network of foreign workers connected to their loved ones in this digital network. And within that network, within that platform are the banks in these countries, yeah, where we have close relationship with them.
Yeah.
And if in a couple of years' time, in 3 years' time, if you can have that connectivity done, yeah, or as it were, growing as it were. A mother in Nepal can borrow from our partner bank in Nepal, and the son who's working in KL in Malaysia that banks his salary into our app can be the source of repayments for that loan that the mother takes in Nepal.
Fantastic.
So I think this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a digital ecosystem where not only do we talk about the needs of the foreign worker, but also the community that he comes from back in the home country.
That he supports, yeah, absolutely. That sounds amazing. And because it will be digital, it will be more accessible, clearly.
Absolutely.
And chances are it will be cheaper.
Yes. I mean, not to say there are. It comes with a whole host of challenges. Obviously,
of course.
The digital penetration in these countries are different. Yeah. Not everybody has a mobile phone in the recipient country. So it's work in progress. But I think this is the plan, and this is where we want to head towards.
That's fantastic. And if Labuan can be part of that, you know who to call.
Absolutely. Thank you.
No, not at all. Thank you for spending your afternoon with us, and all the best with all the great work that Merchant Trade is doing. Thank you for all your insights, and we look forward to hearing from you again. Thank you very much, Rafiz.
Thank you so much, Farah. Thank you so much for having me.